Hi, I'm Dr. Keith Graham from the School of Teacher Education at National Taiwan Normal University. In this final video of the series, we are going to talk about the summary stage of a bilingual lesson. The summary stage is the last stage of a typical bilingual lesson. By this point in the lesson, students should have engaged in a background knowledge activity during the preparation stage and learned and practiced new knowledge and skills in the development stage. In the summary stage, the goal is to review the key points of the lesson and collect formal assessment data. The first part of this goal, reviewing key points, is self-explanatory. So let's talk about the second part, collecting formal assessment data, in a bit more detail. The best teachers are data-driven. They consistently collect data on their students' learning, and they design subsequent lessons based on that data. The summary stage is the time when teachers should collect data in relation to the lesson's objective. At the completion of this stage, the teacher should be able to answer what level each student in the class has achieved. The activity in the summary stage may be very similar to that in the practice substage of the development stage. For example, in a math class, students may be practicing solving equations. Then they would likely do that same thing, solving equations in the summary stage. The difference, though, is that the teacher would actually collect and evaluate those equations solved in the summary stage. These equations may even be graded, whereas those in the development stage would not. Like the activities in the development stage, the activities in the summary stage are highly dependent on the lesson objective. So once again, I cannot give generic activities for these purposes. If you are unsure about ways to do this, I recommend talking with another teacher who teaches your subject or consulting with a subject professor for ideas. However, one thing to keep in mind is that assessment data shouldn't only be teacher assessed. Incorporating student self-assessment data is also important for implementing a complete assessment of the classroom. And I believe that student self-assessment is a key tool for developing the metacognitive skills for lifelong learning. So in addition to teacher-assessed activities, I encourage teachers to include student self-assessment in the summary stage as well. This can be as simple as asking students to rate their learning of the objective on a 4-point scale. It can also involve additional aspects, such as asking students to write one question they still have or one thing they want to know more about. This data, in combination with the teacher-assessed activity, can be very valuable in helping the teacher understand where each student is and help plan the next steps. There are two constraints you need to keep in mind. The first constraint is that you probably will, at most, have 5 to 7 minutes for this stage. With that in mind, you won't be able to assess everything. The goal is just to get a snapshot. So in a math class, that probably means having students solve one equation for you to evaluate. In other classes, that might mean answering 3 or fewer true, false, or multiple choice questions. Your goal is not to do a full-on assessment. The goal is to collect a sample of data so you can assess where students are. Full assessments will come at the end of a unit, not at the end of every lesson. Keep in mind that we're talking about formal formative assessment now, not formal summative assessment. Next, you have to keep in mind that life as a teacher is super busy. Therefore, if you take a data-driven approach, you have to be efficient. There are many free apps available that can help you quickly and efficiently collect and even evaluate student assessments. For example, Google Forms has the ability to automatically grade multiple choice items and provide you with graphs of self-assessment data. This will allow you to get a quick snapshot of the class's learning as soon as the class ends and prevent you from having to keep track of an endless stack of papers. Of course, there are many other apps available that can do even more. Some I've used in the past include Pear Deck, Poll Everywhere, and Slido. If you're in a situation where students don't have mobile devices, I recommend checking out Plickers. I used Plickers back when I was teaching in a school that had a no cell phone policy. Regardless of how you approach it, the summary stage is ultimately about wrapping up your lesson and collecting a sample of formative assessment data on student learning to inform your future teaching. For those of you taking my on-campus course, let's now talk about the specifications for your final teaching demonstration, the summary stage. Like other demonstrations, this is a 6-minute demonstration. During this 6 minutes, I expect you to collect 2 types of data in relation to your objective: teacher assessed and student self-evaluated. You may choose to do this with paper worksheets, or you may choose to incorporate technology. Whichever you choose, you should end the demonstration with access to individual assessment data for each student in the class. If you have any questions about this assignment, please send me an email or arrange a time to meet with me during office hours. Thank you for watching this video. I look forward to your demonstrations.